So if you're feeling softer, slower, fatter, it's not your age, it's your insulin. Insulin is the silent killer that is aging your cells faster than you are. Insulin is the hormone that's aging your cells faster than your years. And guess what? When insulin rises, testosterone lowers, which makes you feel like the man that you don't want to be. And that's probably why you don't feel like the man that you used to be. You can't control how many years you've been on this earth, but you can control what your age is. And insulin is a massive part of that. Hi, my name's Grant Hutchby, and this is Longevity Masters. Longevity Masters is a show for entrepreneurial men who absolutely want to take back their life and live as many years as they possibly can, adding years and years to your life, but more importantly, adding life to your years. And my mission is to absolutely provide the tools and everything that you need on this show to get your biological age as young as you possibly can. So this episode is all about insulin and how to control it, which is a massive, massive part of the turn back time circuit. And it's the second hormone that we talk about in our second week, which is huge. It is imperative that you get your insulin under control if you don't want to be fat, if you don't want to be lazy, if you want to perform at your highest level. So watch on. Hopefully you find some stuff from this episode useful, and here we go. So I've told this story before, but it's really, really important for the insulin part, which is I built with my business partner and wife, Kay, our first business, KG Short Stay, which is a property management company. And we got it to a really, really good level just after COVID. It was more money than I'd ever had before. And what I did is I enjoyed that money, thinking that it was a reward for what I had earned and the hard work that I'd put in to build my business. So because of that, I spent a lot more money than probably what I should have done. However, it was there. I had the money to spend. However, a bit further down the line, I realized that I didn't. But at the time, I did. And me and Kay, we indulged. I am a big guy, so I can indulge quite a lot and carry it very, very well. And we went out on lots of holidays, fine dining, takeaways, alcohol. And what that inevitably did was it made me sluggish, it made me slow, it made me softer, it made me not want to do the things in work that I used to do because it was running on autopilot. So again, I thought I'd earned it. And even Kay didn't really have to get involved much in the business back then. We had people that ran it for us, and we've got people now that run our businesses for us, but it's set up slightly differently. Kay and I are fully aware of everything that goes on in the businesses, and it's not taken away from us, so to speak. We've got a lot of checks and protocols in place. However, that said, I started to get fat and not notice it. I started to get pains creeping back that I had previously. And because I had a bit more money, I was able to get decent painkillers. I was able to get decent alcohol. I was able to get decent food, go on nice holidays, have massages, and all of this stuff just masked what I was doing wrong. And all the things that I was doing, I didn't know, but were spiking my insulin levels. Obviously, we're adding lots of calories, which is why I got fat. However, I wasn't controlling my insulin. And I wish that I had noticed it sooner. I wish I'd seen these things happening. I wish I'd seen me getting fatter. I wish I'd seen me getting more sluggish. I wish I'd have stopped doing things sooner, because it compiled and I let it go on for too long, and eventually it hurt my business. And in 2023 we had massive cash flow issues, and I've explained about the cash flow issues before. However, I just want to reiterate the fact that if you don't get control of your biology, if you don't get control of how quickly you're aging, inevitably it will impact other areas of your life. Doesn't impact your business, it will impact your family. And if it doesn't impact your family, it will impact your business. And it may impact both, because if your business fails, it causes stress at home, and vice versa. If you've got stress at home, it causes problems in your business. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to encourage people out there, well, specifically male entrepreneurs who are successful in their business, who have built good businesses, who are letting it slip for one way or another and aren't noticing it yet. This is your wake-up call. This is your chance to turn it around before something bad happens, like it happened to me. Like, I was really lucky that I've got a wife that absolutely loves me, that knows everything in and out about the business, so is just as committed as me to the business. She's an entrepreneur herself and runs our main trading company and does a cracking job at it. The point is, you don't want to let it go as far as I let it go. And I ended up having to take loans and fund the business, and it created a lot of stress. So I had to sort that out before I could focus on me. But inadvertently, by focusing on me, it progressively got better. And that's what I want you to see now. Is I want you to see the early signs, the warning signs, the things where you look down and you see a belly that you don't like as much, or is bigger than it used to be, or you get out of breath when you go up the stairs and you didn't used to. Just things that you used to do with ease before just aren't as easy. You maybe have made a few bad hires at work or in your business. There are lots of things. And what I'm trying to say is there's these things that are quietly talking to you that you're not noticing yet. And those things just build up and up. I just don't want something bad to happen that could wreck everything for you, because then you've got a mountain to climb as opposed to a small hill. So insulin is a huge part to controlling your fat, your energy, and ultimately your biological age. So the previous episode was about cortisol, and cortisol, again, it works with insulin and your metabolic rhythm. However, insulin is the thing that you need to control if you want to look and feel in a certain way. Obviously, cortisol does that as well, and that's why they work hand in hand. However, insulin is just the one that controls the fat. It controls the energy that you have and how you go about your day. Because if I'm going to explain this in simple terms, insulin gets activated when there's too much sugar in your bloodstream. So if you're putting lots of carbohydrates, lots of simple sugars, lots of energy drinks, lots of stuff like that into your body, what happens is your insulin spikes and your body is basically fighting the sugar that is in your body. And when it's fighting that, it drains your energy. It makes you foggy, because energy in the moment. So with that said, insulin has a massive effect on your mood. It has a massive effect on your decision making. It has, again, a massive effect on your ability to metabolize and oxidize fat. So fat needs to get burnt, and it's very difficult to that when you're not controlling your insulin levels. And if you've got a smartwatch or you've got any smart devices, I would recommend looking at those, because metrics don't lie. People do. And this coincides with all of the stuff that I'm talking about with regards to your hormones, your rhythms, and your cycles, because our hormones work with the rhythms of our body, and we've got certain cycles, and the cycles that we're in at the moment, so weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is week 2. Week 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's all about fixing stuff. It's all about fixing the foundations of what you need to get right to be able to really go into those other levels and work on the cleaning the body and building the body up to be the best body that you possibly can. I remember a quote, or I'm remembering a quote from Warren Buffett, or something that Warren Buffett said, and I'm not going to say it word for word, but he made a point about if you got given a car and when you passed your driving test, and that car was the only car that you were ever going to have for the rest of your life, how would you treat it? How would you treat that car? You'd put the best fuel in it, you'd polish it every day, you'd make it look spick and span, you'd make sure nothing deteriorated, you'd change things when it needed to get changed, you'd do the things with it and feed it the things that it needed to perform at its best for as long as possible. That is how you need to think about your body. And the message that I'm trying to get across to people is, if you do the right things every single day and put the right things into your body every single day, you will not only have a very long life, you will have a high energy life. You will, like I said before, you will add life to your years and years to your life. And that is the point I'm trying to make here. So please, please, please take note of all the things that I'm saying about insulin and the hormones. We need to get on top of this. And I can't explain the benefits that I've had from working on my hormones, my body's rhythms, natural rhythms, and the cycles that it goes through to fix, clean, and build everything up. Can't explain the benefits that I've had. Energy is through the roof. I'm sleeping loads better. I'm able to be so much more productive. I'm aware when I need to take a break, and I can do certain practices to get myself back into peak performance. Master your rhythms and you master your age. Insulin is a huge part to that. And I'm starting off these weeks, these episodes of the Turn Back Time system circuit with the most important ones. We started with cortisol. We're now on to insulin. We know now that insulin is spiked when too much sugar is in the body. It binds to everything. So if you can get that insulin under control, you will increase your energy. You will be able to do more stuff. You will just have a much better rhythm throughout the day. You'll obviously get thinner. Your fat will be reduced as well. So if you want more information on this, if you want the frameworks that are going to help with your insulin, one of them I think that I've done is Performance Plate, but there's a whole toolkit of stuff that you can download. The link's in the show notes. It's bookresources.thecarnivoreentrepreneur.com. It's totally free. All you need to do is put in your email address and name, and you'll get it all free of charge. Obviously, you'll get into our system, but then you're also going to get updates for anything that's coming out new, any offers and stuff that we've got available to help you in this journey of being a younger, better self, to being a younger, happier, and freer self, to be able to do the things that you want to do whenever you want to do them. So obviously, this being week 2, this will be covering weeks 1 and 2 covers the metabolic rhythm, which is the performance part, the performance plate part of the primal pyramid. So we're going through the pyramid. Each part of the pyramid is a rhythm within the body. So primal, Primal. We're in the P at the moment, and week 2 finishes off the P. And what I wanted just to highlight here is you need to consider cortisol and insulin as absolutely your performance hormones. And these are the ones, if you get right, if you get your cortisol and your insulin right, everything starts to change. You start sleeping better, you have more energy, you can do more things, your beer belly, your fat goes from round your tummy, everything gets better. And you can't really go on to the other stuff. I mean, you can do the other stuff, but you can't really get the benefits, the full benefits of the other stuff until you get these 2 right. The cortisol gets your day started right. And if you get your day started right, it means that your other hormones are released at the right time. So you go to sleep at the right times and you can perform at the right levels. And if you get your insulin right, that just manages everything right throughout the day as well. So obviously you can do other stuff. But what I mean is you've got to get this right first. So if you haven't watched the cortisol episode, go back, watch the cortisol episode. That was episode 38. So if you watch episode 38, that will give you the stuff around cortisol. So please, 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 get this right first before you start moving on to all the other levels of like saunas and ice baths and supplements. You got to go through the levels. You can't skip the gears. So start off with managing your cortisol, which is how you wake up in the morning, and how you go throughout the day, which is your insulin. So I think I've made my point around how insulin is so important, how cortisol is so important, but you're probably asking, well, what the fuck do I do? So I'm going to move on to that next. And the key thing with insulin, it's really simple. If it's spiked by you putting sugar into your body, don't put sugar into your body. So the number one rule is to just avoid refined sugars like they're the plague. You should literally treat them like they're poison. However, carbohydrates as well, even the good carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, rice, if you have them too early on in the day, it will spike your insulin, not as much as simple sugars, obviously, because they're more complex sugars and they're much better for you because they're carbohydrates. But what will happen is it will spike your insulin a little bit. It will crash your energy a little bit more than you want to. The absolute best meals to start at the beginning of the day aren't cereals or anything with high carbohydrates in it, or obviously not sugar, is to start with protein and fats. Just have a good amount of protein and fats in your first meal, and it will just manage your insulin levels so much better. It is literally down to the shit that you put in your body. Eat real food. And that is the other thing that I wanted to highlight, is you must eat whole foods. And this is back to the 80-20 rule, right? You know, there are moments where you can have a beer, you can have a pizza, you can have processed food, all that sort of stuff to treat yourself if you want to, a little bit of sugar, whatever. But that can't be your norm. That can't be something that you do every single day. That's got to be a treat on maybe one meal a week or one snack a week or whatever. But make sure that you eat whole food. So no refined sugar, no sweets, no candy, no nothing like that. Make sure that you don't have carbohydrates at the beginning of the day. Make sure your first meal is protein and fats. And by far, this is the most important, apart from not eating sugar, is eat whole foods. Real foods. So if you can't grow it or kill it, don't bloody eat it. And that has got to be the rule that you run by. The other last thing to make sure that you do before I forget is to not do over snacking. And if you can, skip a meal. We'll talk about this in future episodes because it's not really part of this, but a great way to control insulin is to fast for a period of time. So skip breakfast is one that a lot of people like to do. You could skip dinner. I would skip the meal that you have either before you go to bed or the one you have immediately after breakfast. So either skip dinner or breakfast. Don't usually skip lunch because it doesn't give your body that long of a fast. However, skip whichever meal you want to do. But skipping meals and eating high protein, high fat meals really helps control your insulin levels. So apart from the three that I mentioned, that's another one that you can add in, which is just skipping your meals and making sure that you don't snack too much throughout the day. So just as a little roundup and a reminder as to what you should be doing, very simply, is hydrate yourself at the beginning of the day. Make sure that your first meal is protein and fats. Do not eat refined sugar and avoid carbohydrates at the beginning of the day. That goes alongside making sure that your first meal is protein and fats. And last but not least, making sure that you eat whole foods, foods that if you can't grow or kill, don't eat. And if you can, try and skip a meal. So that's it. That's insulin. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of a foundation for insulin. We'll be running this as part of the Turn Back Time circuit, and I may do another episode on insulin in the future as I learn more, because you're coming on this journey with me as well. But if you want to download all of the resources that I've got at the moment, and I'm always adding free resources to this, I will keep adding to it to make sure that as we go through the years and the months, I can add more and more value for free as much as I possibly can, because my number one goal is to help entrepreneurial men reverse their biological age and absolutely provide for their family for as long as they possibly can, because the highest form of providing is longevity. So if you want to download any of that stuff, just go to bookresources.thecarnivoreentrepreneur.com. And as always, if you know anyone that will find this episode useful, please share it, subscribe, like, and get this out to as many people as we possibly can. And on that note, thank you very much for listening to me, and be young, be happy, and be free, people. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You are a carnivore entrepreneur. Live life how it was supposed to be lived on your terms with strength, energy, and purpose. I'll see you on the next episode.